Mike Grabham here again today. Thanks for being here. It is live today from sunny Seattle, Washington, as we are seeing the sun today in our rare 85 plus degree weather. So thanks for showing up. Give me a thumbs up if you're around. Say hello. Let me know where you're from. And today we got a super interesting guest. And before I introduce him, I'm just going to say, again, my name is Mike Grabham. For those of you maybe the first time watching, I do a live show every Tuesday, Thursday. We talk about entrepreneurial activities, trying to help entrepreneurs, get to the other side and get over the hump and make their company more successful. So that's what I do, and I help people all around the U.S. I focus on small, mid-sized companies. So if I can be of help, shoot me an email. But please leave comments in the leave comments in the sections below. Share this, give me a thumbs up, let us know what's going on. And if you have a question, just throw it in the comments and I will get to that. And maybe right on the show, we can answer it, which is awesome. And so we're going to get started. Again, thanks for being here. And today, super interesting guy. I've known him for a while. Him and his wife, our wives are friends. And he has a super interesting story about being a referee. It is an interesting business that is probably not in most cities, but is in some. So, Sean Madden, I'll let you take it away, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'm Sean with Underdog Sports Leagues. We found Underdog about 18 years ago. And, we first thought we were in the sports league business. And turns out we were actually in kind of the friendship business and the fun business. And most of friendship is based on communication. So, we spent the last, first 10 years of the business trying to figure out how to train good referees and umpires, because basically the quality of our brand is not, the fields or the gear, which anybody else can have, because, Parks and Rec department uses the same exact fields we do. The quality of our brand is our field staff, our referees and umpires. So I kind of burnt through, the first 10 years figuring out, doing the knee-jerk beginner brain default idea of this is how you train a ref, focus on the rule book, be professional, learn all the signals, force your way, stand up for yourself, be the boss, tell them what's what, and then after 10 years, I was like, this is not working at all. This is stupid. And so we kind of burnt it all down, built it up from scratch. And the result is, the Social Ref, which just came out about 10 days ago. And it's a book about, how to become a great recreational referee and umpire. But really, at the end of the day, it's a book about being a teacher and being a communicator. And so hopefully there's some, parallels where people are finding that, the communication is everything. It's friendship, it's family, it's husbands, wives, it's everything. Everyone's a communicator, everyone's a teacher. And, we talk a lot about most referees have 4 or 5 hidden jobs they don't realize they have. They show up, they think they're just going to ref. I'm going to call balls and strikes and catch and no catch. And then, things will work out. And if I make the right call, everything will be good. If I make the wrong call, I deserve to get yelled at. Yeah. And it's actually if you make the wrong call, you get yelled at. And if you make the right call or a great call, you get yelled at even more. And that's something a lot of referees don't understand. Most referees believe in this idea of, I call it absolute truth. If I just make the right call, everyone will be happy, everyone will work, everything will work out, and everything will be fine. And it's just not the case. The better your call, the more you're getting argued with. And maybe that idea, the bigger the stand you make. Sometimes you make a stand and you're the only person making that stand, whether it's on the football field or whether it's in corporate America. And sure. how do you communicate with people when you're the only person who sees one side of the situation? How do you tell good people bad news? And so everyone's a communicator and everyone's a teacher. If you're a brother or sister, you're a teacher. If you're a parent, you're a teacher. If you're a teacher, you're a teacher. So your classroom size might be smaller. But this idea of well, I don't want to teach, I just want to ref. No, you're a teacher, because at least for our league and Underdog, nobody ever reads the rule book. So if you get out there like somebody who's I know the rules and you don't, you're automatically going to stifle your communication. So that's a lot of the ideas in the book, and it's basically a book about communication that happens to be about refereeing and umpiring.
Yeah, that's one of the things I loved about it when I read it. It was just the fact that it goes right to relationships, all that, right? Whether you're talking about refereeing or whatever, how you present it and how you communicate is obviously has a huge effect on the receiver of that information. So I just think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is just to talk about the fact that it's about refereeing, but really it's about life and communications. And I just think I think it's a really cool book. So
Yeah, I think that, again, and I made these mistakes, for 10 years. I learned how to ref the wrong way. Nobody taught me the right way. It's just this kind of default idea of couple ideas. First idea is the rule book is the most important thing. Like, and we say, if you read a bunch of recipes, that would not make you a great chef. And if you just memorize the rule book, it would not make you a great ref. And so most people think we ask people come in the office all day long, what are the things you think makes a good ref? Well, don't be biased. Well, read the rule book. Well, act professional. That's not what makes a good referee. What makes a good referee is communication. It's not the calls you make in life or on the field. It's your communication, because you're going to have to make calls that people don't like. And how do you, and even if you're 100% right. And there's also this weird dynamic, we call it the expert professional dilemma, where if you were, if your sister was getting her appendix taken out, you wouldn't barge into the operating room and be like, no, doc, you want to cut there, you want to cut there. Or if you dropped your car off at the mechanic's office, or mechanic garage, you wouldn't, the guy's got the grease on his shirt and the patch and you wouldn't, no, you don't want to undo that lug nut. You want to, but for some reason, the field, because of the passion of sports and people in playing sports their whole lives and grew up on sports, the passion in sports, people will, you've been trained, you've read that rule book, and people will say, no, you're doing it wrong. No, you got it wrong. And in some cases, you have training where you're seeing stuff that no one else is going to see, but they don't barge in and lecture the doctor. They don't barge in and lecture the mechanic, but they lecture you all day long. So if you don't know how to deal with that, and you see every question as an attack, are they questioning you or are they asking a question?
Yeah.
Is a question, is an idea we try and, just because someone's asking a question and they're a little bit angry doesn't mean it's not a question. It doesn't mean they're questioning you. So, that's the idea. A lot of new referees, they just can't handle the conflict because they just assume if I get the call right, there won't be any conflict. And life and reffing is, if you get the call right, there might be more conflict. And so how do you deal with that? And that's kind of the idea of the program and, of the idea of just being a better communicator.
Yeah. And Sean, why did you write the book? Why you run a company, you've been running it for years. You've been obviously successful doing that. Why write a book? What's the,
everyone wants to write a book, right? It's like the stats on people who actually want to write a book are astronomical, right? Everyone wants to leave some kind of legacy, or it's oh yeah, hey, if I'm hit by a bus, someone can read my powerful book.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but really it was just I wanted to have kind of an intro idea for all the referees and umpires that came through Underdog, and the reason why I was able to do this, I think, where I hadn't in the past, was I was a little bit selfish, I think, which is an interesting concept. If nobody ever buys the book, I'm just going to use it for myself. Sure. Because I know it can help recreational referees with Underdog. I hope it can help recreational referees and umpires across the country. I think it might be able to help people who aren't even going to be referees and umpires across the country, and maybe even the world. But, because communication is just people. But ultimately, it was saying, hey, here's an issue we have where it's a bit of a, from a business standpoint, from an entrepreneur standpoint, I've been an entrepreneurial junkie for 18 years. I've got 3-4 companies. It's this giant bottleneck. You have the demand. Underdog is fairly popular in both Portland and Seattle, but where do you go to find kickball umpires? Starbucks has spent millions of dollars making this barista program to make baristas, but how do you make a kickball umpire program? How do you make a dodgeball referee program? It's like sometimes you can go and say, okay, you ref high school football, so you're going to be a flag football ref now. It's okay, that sometimes works, but you referee professional kickball, and then they're not there. Yeah. So part of it is, we kind of had to create our own market from scratch, and instead of DIYing it, and inventor's dilemma, and trying to tell someone the same thing, I was like, hey, can we just have some kind of manual that says, this is the philosophy of Underdog, but the philosophy starts almost backwards from probably everything else you've ever seen.
Yeah.
Every other program I've seen come in, sit in front of a PowerPoint presentation,
read
learn the rules.
Yeah.
And it's just backwards. And maybe it's backwards in a lot of different areas, but the rule book is just not going to make you a good it's important. Like I say that all the time, like your rule book stinks. Like it's not going to make you a referee. And like sometimes people get very nervous, especially people who run intramural programs are like, what do we bring this guy in to talk about?
Exactly.
But your
He's
rule,
telling
but
us
the rule,
nothing more. The rules don't matter.
yeah,
The rules matter,
yeah,
but
yeah. But see, the thing about the rule book is kind of like life, right? Like if you wanted like 80-20 the rule book, which I'm always fascinated with, like the Pareto principle, like there's like 4 or 5 things in the rule book you're going to use over and over and over again.
yeah.
But most rule books are just a giant laundry list of things. And some of the things in the rule book you could use once a year. Like I called the safety like a few months ago in flag football, and I hadn't called the safety in like 9 years. And I started the league, right? And
Sure.
I'm like, and I have to go to another referee, and I'm like, what do we do? Do we punt here? Like I literally couldn't remember what we do with safety. It's like a little bit embarrassing because I'm like the dude who started Underdog, but it's actually true. If when you read a rule book or maybe even a manual or a handbook for your company or whatever, like every single thing seems important. You're like, oh, if I forget this rule, I'm doomed. And it's like this worry that new referees have. Like if I blow a call, I'm doomed. If a player yells at me, I'm doomed. If I forget a rule, I'm doomed. Guess what? You're going to blow a call. You're going to forget a rule. You're going to get yelled at. It's going to happen. How do you respond and communicate when those three things you know are going to happen? Yeah. So that's the idea behind, the rule book it's mostly never visual, but it has no priorities. It's like 80-20. What are the 3 or 4 things that people are going to get wrong every game about your league? They think that your league has 3 timeouts, but it has 2 timeouts, and it's just something you have to know and just communicate about. What are the 4 or 5 penalties you're going to call over and over and over again? Sure. These 19, 20, 25-page rule books, I've seen them. I've seen them from intramural programs. I've seen them from charity, tournaments. There's just zero prioritization. It's some PDF or Microsoft Word document written like 15 years ago, and they just keep reusing it. And they're like, make sure you learn the rules, and then show up and they do like a quick 5-minute, run through the rules. Okay, go hit the field. And then like referees and umpires fail. And also, by the way, if you've been keeping up on current events, the idea of some of these, that you go on Twitter and see some of these brawls at these little league events and like fights and people and like
adults just getting after it.
There's a shortage of referees and umpires across the country. Every single referee association is down. Every single youth referees organization is down. Underdog is a little bit down. Like, who would want to be a referee or umpire given the circumstance, given the idea of, it's just like some of these things you see on social media. And my argument is no amount of reading the rule book is going to help you with an angry parent or an angry coach, but maybe you can figure out some simple communication ideas that are just kind of about people and not really about sports.
Yeah, because, when you talk about that, like talking about communication with people, in that, I think it's section 5 about talking about the diffuser and how you diffuse, basically conflict, really, because you have tons of conflict as a referee. You have tons of conflict. So I really think that's interesting how you do that, and just in relationships, like just, like you say, talking historically, imagining or reenacting the situation, but talking like it's your fault. I mean, it's just really, you talk about a couple of those things. I think it's so applicable to literally everything, at least everything I do in life, because conflicts happen in life. Conflicts happen with my spouse. Conflicts happen with my business clients. I mean, conflicts happen.
Yeah, I hope they are applicable. So like 4 or 5 ideas we could just run through real quick. The biggest problem is not that, people don't try. The biggest problem with at least new referees and maybe people just communicating in general is that they're trying stuff that we in the book we call it the beginner brain versus the ref brain. So the idea is the beginner brain is kind of a villain. It's a trickster, and it tricks you thinking that, the things you think about conflict that are actually good will actually get you in trouble. So people race in with these ideas that they've maybe been using for 10, 15, 20 years, and they don't work because they kind of didn't work before, but then they definitely don't work on the field. So start with one of the simplest ones. We always say start simple. The idea of like fake diffusers, we call them. The idea, how many times have you talked to somebody and their initial response is, hey, just calm down. Hey, just relax. Hey, take a breather. Hey, buddy, chill out, calm down, take a breather, just relax. Yeah. And that that pisses people off. but that's like a knee-jerk beginner brain reaction. How many times have people been doubting you and you've rushed in with what we call like 100% absolute qualifiers? And it's like, hey, you committed that penalty. And they're like, no, I didn't. Like, no, 100% guaranteed, no doubt. Everybody here saw it. You committed, like, and it's like almost like you're arguing a case in a courtroom. Like there's 100% no doubt, full certainty. Nobody likes that either. People think the idea of giving it advice, this idea of, I'm a teacher, or I'm going to give you advice because you made a mistake. The worst time to give advice is right after somebody just screwed up. And that's something you will see, even just parents. But by the way, I'm not preaching. I've made all these mistakes myself. That's why hopefully I can talk about them a little bit. But your kids running in the park and they fall and skin their knee, and you hear the parents when you walk to the park, Johnny, that's why mommy told you shouldn't run in the park. And the kid's like just crying and just and it's like, do not give people advice right after they just screwed up. All it does is piss them off even more. Your body language, if you want to like really simplify body language. All this idea is just like, hey, there's a lot of tools we can teach you about being a better referee, umpire, and communicator. But first, the biggest tool is don't do stupid stuff that doesn't work. Fake diffusers don't work. 100% qualifiers. You 100% did this. Does not work. It makes you feel good, but it does not work. Body language bugs. Simplify your entire body language. We call it your book cover, because people are going to judge you by your book cover before you even make your first call or say your first word. Yeah. Most people instinctively, when they have conflict, they will get closed and they will get small. Like when you watch, when you see the promo videos for like boxing or like UFC, you see those crazy dudes with all the tattoos on them. Like, what's the scene you see? You see, they look like this all the time on ESPN, right? Yeah. They go down and they when you communicate, you want to simplify body language. Be open and be up.
Yeah,
that's it. Chin up. And how many times have you seen people instinctively do this? Yeah. Hey, whoa, hey. Like literally, I go to conferences and I'm like, just literally,
just open up.
Do that. Go up and open. That's it. Crossing your arms, huge body language bug, but people instinctively do it all the time. Another one, I mean, again, maybe you've had this, because we're amazing husbands. I'm sure we never get in a conflict with our wives, but maybe just once in a while, or maybe some of your viewers, you messed up a little bit with husband and wife. And you're talking to them and they're saying something to you. If you want one takeaway, the price of admission for this one, someone's talking to you and you're kind of crossing your arms. Okay. And they start talking to you and you just start shaking your head no. And they're not even done talking. If you want to piss somebody off more than anything in the world, you don't even say anything. You just start, you're like, but sometimes people can't help it. People have been doing that for 10, 15 years. The rule book never says, hey, the thing that's going to piss people off more than that pass interference call or that yellow card or that red card is them coming up to you and asking what they did and you saying,
shaking their head.
But that's a shaking no. So you can train that out of yourself. But if you don't admit that you're doing it at first, you don't recognize it. You don't recognize you're crossing your arms. You don't recognize you're blocking people off and you're clenching your fists and you're kind of making like weird chopping motions and pointing at people and saying, hey, you did this, knock this off. One really, really common thing, I think maybe hopefully for business, but also just for life is we call it the perspective switch. And again, I hope this is really simple. It may be new for some people, but just the simple idea of instead of this is what you did, this is what I saw.
Yes.
And it's the idea
easy, right? That's such an easy thing. Right? This is what I saw.
Yeah. It's like I try and simplify it like faves versus facts. How many times have you talked to somebody and you've said like, this is the best baseball player of all time, or the best Seahawk of all time, or the best movie of all time, and they're like, you're an idiot. Like that. That's the best movie of all time. Like you're a moron. But how many times have you said, this is my favorite movie of all time? And you can call somebody an idiot also for telling you that's their favorite, but it's a harder argument to make. So my favorite Seahawk of all time, my favorite baseball player of all time is Phil Plantier. Who the hell is Phil Plantier?
That's what I was
He
gonna
played
say.
for the Red Sox for like a half a year. The best baseball player of all time. That's why ESPN and all these companies
Sure.
want you to argue. And who was the best quarterback of all time? Was it Joe Montana or Tom Brady? Like, okay, like people are going to click on that and post all their comments and be like crap talking on the internet, in the social media, because
Sure.
they want you to engage. They want you to click. They want you to fight. They want to create
they want conflict.
They want that conflict is money. On the internet, conflict is money, unfortunately, but that's the case. Who's Joe Montana, Tom Brady, whoever, versus who's your favorite quarterback of all time?
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation.
That's your opinion. So this is you did this versus this is what I saw.
So who's your favorite quarterback of all time?
I mean, probably Russell Wilson, but maybe.
Oh, come on. I'm just kidding.
Bernie Kosar. Do you know who Bernie Kosar is?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Bernie Kosar, maybe Vinny Testaverde. Bernie Kosar, University of Miami, I believe Bernie Kosar. So that's what I'm But you see it all the time. You see it in the way people praise each other. They just there's just simple mechanics in terms of how you give feedback or praise, and just simple feedback or mechanics in terms of how you literally point something out. Look, none stuff is complicated. Nobody likes to get pointed out. Nobody likes to get told they did something wrong. Yep. Nobody likes to get called out in front of their coworkers or their friends or their family. And nobody likes to say, you made a mistake. I'm pulling out a yellow card on you. I'm throwing a flag at you. I'm blowing my whistle and stopping everything and saying, look at what this person did. They did something wrong. And oh, by the way, you don't get a second chance to redo it. So that's just natural conflict built into it. That's just natural conflict. And I think that, that's kind of the main focus of the book. The conflict is going to be there. Yeah. If you think I ask a very provocative question, and some people get it, some people don't. But the question for a lot of new referees is like, why are you so special? Why are you so special that you're going to avoid conflict that people have been dealing with for hundreds of years?
Sure.
Hundreds of years that people have been saying the ref screwed me and this is the ref's fault. And people have seen their own perspective. Like, why are you that good? Like, if you're that good, like maybe you shouldn't be a referee. Maybe you should be like a freaking diplomat at the United Nations or something. Like president. I don't know, like you something like, but why are you so special that you're going to avoid all the conflict and all the adversity and all the passion that's built into sports, and that you're going to make a call and people will be like, yeah, dude, you're right. That was a great call. Like, no, you're not special. You're not a unique snowflake. Conflict is built in the job, and you're going to have to deal with that conflict, whether it's on the field or whether it's in life. And how do you deal with conflict when nobody likes what you're about to say, and people don't understand what you're about to say, and maybe they don't even like you. Maybe they don't. And that uniform, can be a symbol of, hey, either this person's here to help me and teach me, or that uniform, those referee stripes can also be a symbol of like, this is the person who tells me every time I screw up and do something wrong. And maybe that's a boss too. Hey, the boss only comes to me and tells me when I screw up and do something wrong, and I never hear from them. That could be a different version of a referee or umpire. Yeah.
Hey, so just a reminder, you're here watching live with Sean Madden, myself, Mike Grabham. Sean is the author of a brand new book called The Social Ref. Sean's also a friend of mine here in Seattle, and I think it's great. It's not only about reffing and something he's been doing for 18 years in his business, Underdog, but it's also about, I think it's very applicable to relationships and business and et cetera. So we're here talking to Sean today, and for those of you popping in and out to the live stream. So Sean, I just wanted to kind of and please leave comments, give me a thumbs up. Let us know what's going on. Any questions you might have for Sean or myself, throw them in the comments. We'll get to them right away. But so not to interrupt Sean, but I wanted to give people a heads up. So back to you, my friend.
Yeah, no, I mean, one idea that might help, that I've fallen into, unfortunately, over and over again, and hopefully I can help other people, is the idea of, teaching versus explaining. And how many times we see this problem a lot of time with new referees. This person doesn't understand me, so I'm just going to repeat it, or I'm just going to. You see it sometimes in a foreign country, right? It's almost comical. They say, "Hey, how do I get to the restaurant?" And the person says, "I don't understand you," and they just like repeat themselves
louder. They just talk louder,
as if they couldn't hear you. And the issue is not that they can't hear you. The issue is they don't understand you, or they don't like the way you're communicating. So I mean, that's just something that we spend a lot of time on. Most people fall into kind of the advice trap, give advice right after somebody does something wrong, or the explanation trap. And the explanation trap, feels like you think you're teaching, you think you're helping, but really it just sounds like, let me explain to you again why I'm right and
you're
you
wrong.
are wrong. And they just keep repeating themselves, and they kind of fall into these fake diffusers and these 100% qualifiers and these body language bugs and the shaking the head nose. And it just, it just doesn't help. So hopefully there's some just simple ideas like the body language ideas. Hopefully there's some simple ideas like, the perspective switch. The one idea I talk a lot about with like, for instance, soccer trainers and football trainers is one of my new favorite ideas is the idea of the Sir Mix-a-Lot praise system, because we're in Seattle. And so you've got the Sir Mix-a-Lot, who's a hometown hero, and everyone knows about Sir Mix-a-Lot. I love asking this question. This is a PG podcast, right? Can I curse here? Or are we allowed for kids? Or
yeah, you're allowed. It's a family program though.
go into a crowd of people. Say, what is Sir Mix-a-Lot like? Everyone, he likes big butts. B-U-T-T, butts. Yeah. Most people, when they give feedback, they love big butts. B-U-T. Hey, Mike, you did a great job on that report.
But
and if you talk that way when you're training in new referees or umpires, or you talk that way in your office, people are gonna tune out the first thing you said. And then even if you do give praise or compliments, if you don't have a second part, they're just going to be waiting for the but.
So again, they know it's going to happen, right?
Yeah. So stop, and there's look, you can go on the internet and read like 15,000 articles about praise sandwiches and all this nonsense, like whatever. Like if you've got those, that's great. Like simplify this stuff as much as possible.
Yeah.
Give criticism first and generally give praise second and specifically. Mike, good penalty call there, but you really need to get out on the field because your spots are just off, and your spots feel really off, and you just need to get better at that. Versus, Mike, I really need your help here. I feel like you're stuck on the sideline, and you're not getting out for some spots where I need your help. A great technique is asking for help instead of criticizing. Mike, I really could use your help here. I feel like you're kind of stuck on the sideline. There's a lot of spots I want you to get out to. Yeah. And that pass interference you threw at the end of the second quarter was great. Ref the whole second half the way you threw that pass interference, and you will be great.
Yeah.
There's no big button there. If somebody does something right, be very, very specific. That was awesome. Do it again. If somebody's doing something wrong, it's so easy to be very, very specific and give them a laundry list of everything they did wrong. Whether it's in business, it's easy to find stuff wrong. It's in recreational sports. It's easy to find something wrong. You're always going to find something wrong. So if you feel like that as a referee, or even like a trainer where you're trying to teach and coach not just the players, but actually teach and coach other referees and umpires, and you keep throwing the big button there, you keep throwing the very specific criticism, and you leave the criticism second, just put the criticism first, make it general, and put the praise second, and get rid of the big but. And by the way, like if you need my help, with some of these other phrases that you just hear all the time, like, with all due respect, like, come on, like if you're still using that line, like, just like get rid of that. Don't with all due respect. With all due respect, you're an asshole. Like,
exactly.
You might it's just so. But again, these are jokes because they're just part of communication. Because we never really tried in some cases, and people just assume, well, I've made it this far. I made it this far with my fake diffusers. I made it this far with explaining why I'm right and they're wrong. I made it this far with all these ideas, and so let's keep going and see where we go. And I just think there's a better way. And I don't think most programs, let alone most businesses, and again, it's not to preach. I've struggled with communication. I've been an introvert most of my life. I've struggled with communication most of my life. And so part of the book, getting back to the original question, is like just me going through this process of like, hey, I was the referee who got out there, and for the first 10 years, I was the sarcastic asshole. Like I was like, I can't apologize. I can't admit when I was wrong. I have to be tough. I have to be, I have to, and I was that guy. You can power through that, just like you could power through that being a boss, being an entrepreneur. But there just is a better way, and you can learn to be a better communicator.
Yeah,
communication.
Hey, Sean, one of the things that I love about that book is the story that you told about the walking or driving down the street, and the person on the sidewalk, and you don't know their backstory, right?
Mm-hmm. I started off a section with that story. I'm driving down the street close to my house, and a dude just jumps up in the air and falls down backwards. And I see that out of the corner of my eye, and I'm like, that looks bad. That looks really bad. Like you can just feel it in your gut, like something that's bad. I slow my car down. I'm like looking, trying to figure out what's going on. I'm like, yeah, that dude is like, you see his feet sticking out of the sidewalk. Like that dude is laying on the sidewalk. I better turn around here. And I'm like looking for a spot to turn. And like, this dude just lays on the horn behind me, just blaring techno music, like black car, tinted windows, neon lights underneath the car, just blasting the worst like techno music ever. And it's just like honk, honk. It rolls up beside me and literally flips me the bird and is like, again, PG or PG-13 or R, fuck you, man, get the hell. Like, and it's one of those things that I feel like referees, I called it the Zen honk. I have it happen all the time to me, by the way, in Seattle, where you have all these bike lanes.
Yeah.
So how many times, I don't know if you've seen this before, like there'll be like a row of cars to make like a left-hand turn and there's a bike coming. So you're like, okay, I'm not going to turn, because if I turn, I'm going to squish that bicyclist. And the person behind you like, come on, dude, honk, honk, and like giving you the finger. And it's like, that's kind of like what being a referee is like. You've got, in many cases, more information and more knowledge, and a great concept from a book I just read, which I'm a book nerd, but Never Split the Difference by a former FBI negotiator, which is one of my favorite books of the year. Just the idea of like, oftentimes when you think someone else is crazy, when you're like, this guy's crazy, what's wrong with him?
What the hell is he doing? Like,
what is this guy's problem? It's often that craziness. I talk about crazy pills in the book. That craziness often comes from the idea that you just simply have more information than the other person. And can you not assume the worst, even if they're assuming the worst out of you? This ref is biased. This ref is out to get us. This idiot, doesn't know how to drive. And that guy behind me, I had more information than he did. He was focusing on his techno music and I was focusing on, there's a dude over there just had a seizure and is bleeding on the sidewalk, and I'm going to flip around and call 911 and get this guy help. Yeah. But what's the natural response? This dude drives up, flipped me the bird, and I'm like, screw you, man. Like, but how many times have you, had that issue in traffic, or somebody cuts in front of you in line, or somebody, and a great concept, which I learned about a few years ago, is that idea of Hanlon's razor, which is becoming very popular now. I saw Ferris talking about it in a newsletter like a few months ago. Just this idea of like, don't assume malice when the easier answer is often neglect. Yeah. Don't assume. I mean, how many times you had it where like you're waiting on a friend or somebody, and they just kind of ghost you, and you're looking at your phone. I was supposed to meet up with this person. Like, did I do something? Did I say something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Did I forget their birthday? Last time I was at their house, did I
do something wrong?
Put on their carpet? Did I screw up? Is it me? And it's like, and what happens? Like, they're like, oh man, sorry, my phone died. Sorry, I lost my phone charger. It's some innocent thing. It's neglect. Yeah. And how many times do referees and umpires are like, this person sucks. This person hates me. This person's being a jerk. And it's like, it's not malice. They don't hate you. They just don't know as much as you do. They haven't read the rule book. They haven't got the training you have. And so there's this idea of, true confidence. True confidence, what I talk about at the end of the book, is true confidence is never having to try and win an argument. True confidence is never having to saying I'm right and you're wrong, or to change somebody's mind. And how many times do people start an argument or start a conversation in a meeting and be like, my goal in this is to change your mind.
Change everyone. Yeah.
It's not, you're not going to change it. You're not going to change it. In many cases, one concept I love to talk about is sometimes the only way to win an actual argument with a player is just to not lose it. Most people don't understand that. And I didn't understand that for a long time. I make this super close call a few months ago in a flag football game. Again, I'm a referee, so I always come back to reffing. Super close call. This guy's reaching the ball out. I call a touchdown, and the flag is pulled as he's crossing the goal line. And we have three flags in our league. You've got a flag belt, 1, 2, 3 flags. They pull the flag. He gets a touchdown. He's got 1 flag left. I'm like, oh crap. He's got 1 flag left. The second flag, where's the second flag? The second flag is back. And I literally take away a touchdown on 4th down. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that this. I don't say to him, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure I messed up this call.
Sure.
Call. I'm taking away a touchdown from a player on 4th down. How do you think that player responded?
Exactly.
That player was like, first off, you called a touchdown. You can't take it back. I'm like, I take it back. You actually were pulled here, and the second flag was pulled in the end zone. Sorry if I'm getting too inside football for your viewers, but hopefully I'll bring it back around.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, I boned the call, but I'm really confident about how it went. And 10 minutes later,
Yeah, he's still there, right? Arguing.
The player comes back to me and says, "Oh, two of my teammates said the flag was definitely pulled short." And I'm like, oh gosh. By the way, that does not happen very often. But the only way sometimes to win the argument is to not lose it in the moment. And if you do what we call the killer comeback, which is what everybody wants to do, I call it the door slam, right? Most people don't remember the full conversation. They remember a peak moment and they remember the ending. Chip and Dan Heath talk about in this Power Moments, where it's like most people have an experience, headache-free experience.
And then just at the very end.
They remember the peak. You go to Disney World, they remember Space Mountain. And remember how the trip ends, your vacation with your family. So most people remember the end of what you say. And most people love that door slam moments. I'm going to slam the door in your face and I'm going to say this thing that's going to be like, boom, put you in your place.
Yeah.
It's like, Mike, your numbers are wrong. This report is wrong. And if you think it's right, then you're crazy to think that.
Yeah.
Door slam. Versus Mike, this report is wrong. The numbers are wrong. And if you think the numbers are right, I'm a little bit worried we're not looking at the same information.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of said the same thing. The first was a door slam, killer comeback. The second at least left an opportunity to say, I think, and what did I say? I think, and also I'm worried. I'm worried about you. And I'm worried about you having the wrong numbers, but I'm worried about you. But how many times, and we have a great saying in refereeing an umpire, like if it feels good to say, do not say it.
Yeah, if it feels really good, it's probably wrong.
And again, getting back to husbands and wives and boyfriends and girlfriends, and you've got that idea, and it forms in the back of your head. It's like it grows, and you're like, ooh, I cannot wait to say this. I cannot wait to slam the door in their face. I cannot wait to say, and if you think that, you're insane. I cannot wait to come back with the sarcasm and the satire, and I can't wait to come back with the door slam. And if it feels really good to say and you can't wait to say it, don't say it. Don't say it in life. Don't say it to your wife. Don't say it to your husband. Don't say it on the field, because that 5 seconds of you feeling good will lead to tons of long-term regret, and you can't take it back. And that's just an idea for reffing and for life.
Yeah.
But most people are just used to, hey, again, that beginner brain tricks you and says, oh man, that you can feel it. You can, like that person cuts you off in traffic. Yeah. Maybe they cut you off in traffic, Hanlon's razor style, because they're trying to rush their kid to the emergency room.
Yeah. You don't know, right?
You just don't know. And it's harder, and it's a little bit lonely, but also being a ref is lonely when you have to be like, hey man, I know I made the right call here. I'm the only person who saw this call, but I'm not going to lose it by trying to slam the door on you. That guy's short of the goal line. I could have said, look, I'm the referee. I make the calls. Just no more arguing, or I'm going to flag you. That's your first warning. I used to be that referee, and most referees end up being that way. There's this idea, I think, that comes out a lot. I talk about it briefly. You'll see it a lot, kind of the idea of defender comments and the idea of what I call an honor call. We call it a Saving Private Ryan call, where, I'm a football guy. We've got to play at the end zone, and a guy just smashes a lady on the arm. It's 5-yard penalty. He didn't, the ball's already gone. I don't call pass interference. The guy goes ballistic. He's throwing out, we call it spaghetti arguments, where you throw out 15. She ran into me. I was just going for the ball. It wasn't my fault. I was looking back for the ball. And like everyone in the field's like kind of mocking the guy and being like, well, which one is it, man? But spaghetti. When you get caught with your hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah.
People just throw out as many excuses and spaghetti arguments as possible. And this guy is like beside himself. He comes up halftime. He's still, ref, like, what am I supposed to do there? Like, how am I supposed to? It's like, and it's not about the call. The person doesn't care about the penalty. The person cares about their honor. The person cares about,
doesn't want to look bad, right?
Tell me I'm a good person. Tell me you believe. And we talk about pre-diffusing a situation, which you can do maybe with your kids, maybe in business, definitely on the flag football field. Hey, look, when you have a sport, basketball, soccer, flag football, there's contact. A little bit of contact, you don't call it. A lot of contact, you call it. You call an elbow, you call a forearm, you call someone low on their shoulder. And you call that elbow, you can just, a lot of times we call it an escape hatch. It's just, look, hey, you got him with the elbow, but I know you didn't mean to do it on purpose. And they're like, that's all. Versus they'll come back and argue over and over and over again, because they don't care about the penalty or the explanation of the rule. They care about, tell me, Saving Private Ryan style, tell me I'm a good person. Tell me I'm worth it. Tell me you believe me that I didn't elbow that person on purpose. And maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But in sports, especially rec sports, most people don't go out to like hurt people. And that's Helen's razor. Don't assume malice when it's really just neglect, when someone really just messed up or made a mistake. And referees, look, it's not my fault. You elbowed him. Why am I giving you an escape match? Why am I? But if you have that true confidence, where you don't worry about having to win the argument or fighting battles that never need to be fought in the first place, you can just pre-diffuse a situation with your kid. Hey, I know you didn't mean to do it on purpose, but here's what happened. It's not cool. Hey, I don't even mean to do it on purpose, but your elbow, caught that player, so it's going to be -5 from the spot. And when that guy came over at halftime and was still saying, "Ref, how do I avoid this penalty? It was really just, dude, it's okay. You didn't mean to do it on purpose. Thanks, ref. Gone. Never heard about it ever again."
Yeah.
So that idea of Helen's razor, and that idea of like pre-diffusing and that idea of honor, how many times have arguments and conversations just kept going over and over again. And it's not about the specifics. It's not about the report or the stats or the KPIs. It's just about, it feels like you're questioning my honor. Just tell me you think I'm a good person. Just tell me you think I didn't do that on purpose. Yeah. And it's like that. Sometimes that's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. That's really good stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, I got 15,000 stories from the field, but hopefully
I know that's what the great thing is. I mean, that's what that's one of the things I liked about the book is all of the good stories. Because when I was in college, I was an intramural ref for like a couple years, right? So it was, and I quite enjoyed it. It was fun, and I was okay. I wasn't great or anything, but it's just so good to hear these stories because they're real. I mean, like, you can see all these stories happening. Like if you've ever played any intramural sports and things, like, I play basketball obviously and stuff. So it's like just great to see these stories and hear the real stories. And from your standpoint, the referee, it's always interesting because most people never take a perspective from the referee standpoint. It's always from a player or a coach or a fan, right?
Yeah. It's like the joke is like it's turtles all the way down. And I kind of end the idea of like, it's people all the way down.
Yeah.
Like whatever the rule book, whatever the sport, it's always people. And people are like, people think they're so unique, but when it comes to conflict and getting caught doing something, they're really all the same. They're really all the same. Nobody admits that they're wrong. Nobody wants to get caught and called out in front of their friends and family and coworkers. It's really all the same. So how can you deal with that idea of just it's people all the way down? And it's hopefully the idea of instead of, there's a ton of books out there about here's how to be a youth basketball referee. And because we started with communication, I tried to go across multiple sports and say, I don't know your rule book. I don't know your handbook. I don't know your employee manual for your company. But I feel like after 18 years of Underdog, we know communication. It's all the same. It's people all the way down. People just react certain ways to certain situations, and you're going to trigger certain. I mean, one of the core ideas that I feel like most people don't understand because they use it so much themselves. They can't, like, sometimes it's called the curse of knowledge. They can't see the forest for the trees. We talk about curse of knowledge a lot in the book. Is this idea of self-serving bias? And I was talking about it this morning with somebody who was staying with us. The idea of like, my kid did good on this math test because my kid's a genius.
Of course.
But my kid did bad on the math test because you're a sucky teacher and you're not doing the right lesson plan to accommodate my brilliant kid.
Yeah.
Hey, or how about, hey, we won the championship because we're awesome at sports, so we make great plays. Yeah. But we lost the championship because the referees suck. That's self-serving bias. Again, we ask the question, what makes you so different? What makes you so special? You're not going to change self-serving bias. That's been there for like hundreds of, like, there's probably cavemen back in the day who were like, like my club works because I'm awesome, but my club didn't kill the woolly mammoth or something. I don't know. I'm making this stuff up, but the idea is like that. You're not going to change self-serving bias. You're not changing people's natural reaction to say, I did this because I'm good, but this bad thing happened because you're bad. You're not going to change that. So you might as well start practicing ways to accommodate that. Yeah. And this idea of the curse of knowledge crops up because people, know these rules. They know they have this extra knowledge. If you're the boss, you definitely have the curse of knowledge. And you're just like, this is so obvious. Why doesn't everyone else see this? And that's where the Helen's razor idea kicks in. Well, they just don't know as much as you do. But if you talk to them and throw the rule book in their face and get mad at them because they don't know as much as you do, then you've already lost the conversation. You've already lost the argument, even if there is an argument. But you can't win the argument. So stop arguing and just practice on not doing stupid stuff that doesn't work and trying to diffuse conflict, because conflict's there. And part of life is just dealing with conflict. People are going to get pissed off. People are going to blame you, whether it's on the referee field or whether it's in life. People are going to blame you for stuff. And that sucks. And I wish they didn't. But you're not going to change that.
Yeah.
And the more you realize that, the easier it is sometimes to deal with. And sometimes you're like, yeah, there it is, self-serving bias again. There it is.
Yeah. And so Sean, so the book's been out what, 2 weeks, 10 days? It's been
Give or take 2 days.
Yeah.
Two weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. And how's it gone? Like, I mean, obviously you're probably talking to people on, doing things like this, and like, are you excited about this part of it? Are you looking forward to more of this? Like, what's your thoughts about, like,
Well,
how to?
I love talking and teaching. Two things. One, I would say is I was very happy with a few people who read it, including I think you, and said this is a lot more than reffing. That was always my dream. I didn't really promise it. I kind of vaguely mentioned, like, hey, you know what? This is really good for being a referee, and maybe it'll help in your regular life. But a lot of people read it and been like, this is a business book. And like, if that happens, that's great. I was trying to start with recreational referees and umpires, but if people see that at business, that's been happening so far organically, that's very exciting. The second thing is, I gave a talk, a week ago in front of an association of 300 soccer referees.
Sure.
And I am not a soccer dude. And I've reffed one game. I've reffed like 6,000 games in my life, but like one game of soccer. I'm not a big soccer person. I understand it. I watch the Women's World Cup. I appreciate soccer. I watch the English Premier League sometimes, but the idea that crowd, I was so worried about, they're going to think I'm a fraud. I don't know soccer. Sure. Penalty kicks and in the box and but it was just so well received, and so many people were like, the sport doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it's
sport
not.
Doesn't matter. The rule book doesn't matter. I don't need to know what your rule book is. I don't need to know what your sport is. Could it work for hockey? Could it work for soccer? Could it work for anything? Could it work in the boardroom? Maybe. I hope so. That's the exciting part to me, is when I go talking for soccer people, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm not a soccer person, but I tell a story and everybody in the crowd is nodding. And it's a story about somebody at a kickball game.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those moments. And if you look at it and you say, like, well, I'm never going to be a kickball umpire in my life, this is stupid, then you might not get a lot out of the book. But if you look at it and say, like, hey, this is actually just a natural reaction to conflict that people have, and take the kickball and flag football and softball and hockey and basketball and soccer out of it. This is people. This is conflict. This is teaching. This is communication. That's the part that gets me really excited, where people are actually kind of gravitating towards it because it's just really about communication, teaching, and people.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, I want to, end it up, but you are, I think you've got, I just say, like, I'm a huge fan of this, not because it's a ref book, because it's it's a book that can be used in what I would say everyday life, and helping diffuse conflict, and helping, build relationships, and help you be a better manager or just a better human being. Right. Yeah. That is awesome. So I say, well done, man. Good job on this. I'm happy to see it. I'm glad it's finally out. I've been talking to you for, I don't know how long, I'm talking about this book. So it's good to see it.
You were a big help, by the way. Everyone should know, who's watching this, that Mike was a big help. And so maybe you got a side hustle as, like, a business coach, like I started reading $1 Trillion Coach yesterday. So maybe you're the next $1 Trillion Coach, where, because there were so many moments when you're writing a book where you're like, okay, this is the part where I talk about, I gave it a try and it didn't work out.
Work out.
Who's got the time to write it? And there was many moments where Mike was the guy who kept me going. And so I appreciate that very much. Not just for having me on here, but for actually, that's why you got the big shout out at the end in the book, because you helped me with it.
I'm in the book, man. I'm in the book.
Yeah. I do hope that, there's something, a little bit of something in it for everybody. And if you were, kind of a shy person, like I've been for most of my life, or a little bit introvert, or a poor communicator, and you felt like you kind of always got ignored, you always kind of said the wrong thing, I hope maybe it helps, because there's just going to be situations in life where you're going to have to deal with conflict. You have to deal with situations where you have more information than somebody else, and how you're going to act. And you're going to have to tell people good people bad news.
Bad news.
Whether it's you committed a pass interference call, or whether it's something else bad, you're going to have to tell good people bad news. You have to tell people things that they don't want. That's kind of big moments in life, I feel like, come down to that. Big moments where you have to communicate, and maybe you're alone and you saw something nobody else sees, or you feel something no one else feels. And if you just try and strong arm it and say, look, hey, I'm the ref, I'm in charge here. If you don't like it, go back to your huddle. You don't like to go talk to your coach. Like that's so easy to do, but that's what we've already been doing, and doesn't work. So let's try a different way, and maybe that different way of communicating on the field can help deal with the referee shortage across the country, but also maybe can help just communication in general when you want to be a better communicator, no matter what your sports background is, no matter what your business situation is. If you're an entrepreneur junkie like me and you're always like struggle with management and, complimenting people and praising people and all these things, I'm hoping that there's a little bit of that in, for everybody in the book.
Yeah.
By the way, it makes a great stocking stuffer.
Sure.
It makes a great Hanukkah gift. You should buy one for all 8 nights of Hanukkah, and it makes a great stocking stuffer. If you're like us, Hanukkah and Christmas.
That's good.
there's some bonus content. Have we shown the book, by the way? I feel like I'm a bad promoter.
Yeah,
I've said, okay, there we go. Jeez, I'm like, show the cover. Jeez, come on, I gotta move some product here. Come on, let's go. Come on.
No worries, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Like I said, you've been awesome. Great guest. I just quite enjoyed this. How long have it been? 50 minutes and 10 seconds. So we've been on here a while.
I told you we were going to run out of time. I didn't even get to my favorite, Thank you much for having me. It's super fun. I love talking about it, and I hope people check out the book. And I hope if there's more YouTube videos, if you the body Q stuff we started talking about, there's a video on our YouTube channel if you want to check that out in more detail. If that's interesting stuff to you, But check it out. And if you want to email me questions or email me stories. The thing I love the most is when somebody's like, "Hey, I took your fake diffuser thing, or I took your defender comment or your honor call or your Saving by Ryan call, and I used it here." And like that's what makes it all worthwhile. Like it's not a lot of money in selling books on Amazon. No, so I'm sorry to break the news to anybody.
Yeah, there's actually hardly any money in publishing the book.
Yeah, and we started off pretty good. We had Jenny Finch for a couple of days as the #1 ranking in softball, but Jenny Finch is so good. She's now clearly way on top of us, and we'll probably never catch her again. But so far so good. So it's been a really cool experience so far.
Cool. You're awesome, man. Okay, man. Well, be safe. Have a great week. Keep it up. Keep talking to people about it, and you're awesome. So I'll talk to you soon, and probably see you at the gym.
Oh yeah, call and make sure you call him like you see him.
Okay, always, man. Take care, everyone. Have a safe week. Have an amazing day. Be safe. We'll see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.